Okay, now we're ready to set up our virtual lab environment. So we've already got VirtualBox installed and we're ready to start installing virtual machines. Now, before I get started, I just want to show what you see on the screen is a walkthrough done on Notions on a Notions page. So the way I like to do the labs and the hands-on is actually provide you with a walkthrough. Some people learn better from seeing it done. So we have the videos, and some people learn better by reading it or following along with a document. So the way I create the Notions page is if you scroll down, it basically you could do the entire setup without even watching the video because everything is included in the Notions page, including links. So, we're going to have to download pfSense and download Kali Linux. So those links are involved. There's a lot of screenshots, especially on this first walkthrough, on how to not only create the virtual machines, but as we scroll down, actually configuring pfSense. So sometimes you'll see during the videos, I'll have the walkthrough on one side and the virtual machine on the other side. But you have access to these walkthroughs. They're located at the resource tab on each lesson. And the walkthroughs, like I said, they're on a Notions page, are hosted online. So what I like about that is if we update the class or add additional features, I can do that online, and everybody's Notions pages get updated at the same time. You don't even have to change the bookmark if you bookmark to it, or you could just access it through the resources page for this particular lesson. So now we've got that out of the way, we'll start to discuss setting up our virtual environment. So the first thing we need to do is download pfSense in Kali Linux. So just follow the link in the walkthrough. pfSense, and the download button is on the page right when you get to it. And then also do the same for Kali Linux. For Kali Linux, you want to download the 64-bit installer. Now, if you are running Apple Silicon, then you will need to download the ARM64 version. So once you have those downloaded, we are now ready to go into VirtualBox and start the installation process. So once you have VirtualBox open, go to Machine, and we want to select New. First virtual machine we're going to install is pfSense. So we'll go ahead and name it pfSense. Then you select the folder where you want the virtual machines to be stored. So in my case, I'm going to choose another folder where I'm going to put all the virtual machines for this course. And then you select where you downloaded the ISO image to, or where the ISO image is currently located. For type, we want to select BSD, and we want to make sure that we change the FreeBSD to 64-bit. And then we can click Next. Now, pfSense doesn't require a whole lot of resources, but I am going to up it to 2 gigabytes of memory, and I'm going to put it up to 2 CPUs. Now, this depends on the resources that you have on your host. So if you're at a resource constrained host, let's say you only have like 16 gigabytes of memory, then you may only want to give it 1 gigabyte of memory. And with processors, if you're limited on processors, then you may only give it 1 CPU. Once you've selected those, you could click Next. Now we want to set the size of the hard drive. pfSense doesn't require a super big hard drive. We're just going to go 20 gigabytes. And one thing I will point out when we talk about hard drive size on virtual machines, we're not pre-allocating the full size. So if we set the hard drive size to 20 gigabytes and we only use 5 or 10, then you still have that extra 15. It's not going to block off all 20 gigabytes of disk space. So once you've selected the 20 gigabytes, we can go ahead and select Next. Now we want to review to make sure everything's good. We did give it 2 gigabytes of memory, 2 processors. Everything seems to be in order, so we can click Finish. So now we need to go to Settings. So under Settings, the first changes we need to take place is under System. We want to deselect the floppy drive. Let's put the hard drive at the top. And then we can go ahead and move to audio. Now we're going to disable the audio. There's no reason that a firewall needs to have audio enabled. So we'll disable audio, move to USB, and do the same. We will disable the USB. Now we're going to the network. So this is the critical part, especially for a firewall. So remember our network diagram, we need to put at least 3 adapters on this firewall. One adapter will be the WAN adapter, or that's the adapter that goes out to the internet. And then we want to set up 2 different LANs. The eCore LAN that I'm calling it, where the Active Directory environment will be, and then another LAN where the Kali Linux or the attack box will be. So to do that, we want to enable the first network adapter. We'll keep the NAT selection, but we'll drop down on the advanced drop down, and then we want to choose virtualized network. Everything else can stay the same, but now we want to go to adapter 2. Under adapter 2, first we want to enable it, and then we want to attach it to an internal network. Name for the adapter for now will be LAN 0. We want to change the adapter type to paravirtualized network again. Everything looks to be in order for adapter 2, so now we will go to adapter 3, and similarly, we will enable that adapter. We want to connect it to an internal network, but this time we want to change from LAN 0 to LAN 1, and we want to change the adapter type to paravirtualized network. Click OK, and now before we do anything else, we can go ahead and take our first snapshot. Now I'm just going to call this clean, because if I run into any problems down the line, I can revert back to this snapshot. We are now ready to start and then configure the firewall. We can go ahead and select Enter on Accept, and we can click OK. Select OK again. This will be what we want to do now is to set up our WAN interface. So our WAN interface will be that first one on the top. So we can click OK on it, and we can continue, which adjusts the network operation mode for the WAN. We can select OK again, and we can select Continue. Now we want to select Install CE, and then we can select OK. Select OK again, and we can select Yes. We want to go ahead and select OK. And the installation will begin. I will go ahead and pause the video as this downloads. Okay, when that is complete, we can select OK and then reboot. Okay, so you see the question, do VLANs need to be set up first? And we're going to type in no. And then we're asked to name the interfaces. So we want to name the interfaces VNet 0, VNet 1, and VNet 2. So we want to select yes to rename those interfaces. Type in yes or a Y. Okay, now we will type in VTNet 0 for the WAN. Okay, for the LAN interface, we'll type in VTNet 1. And then for the optional interface, we are going to type in VTNet 2. What you see now is you'll see that the interfaces have been assigned as follows. So the WAN is VTNet 0, the LAN VTNet 2, or VTNet 1, and the optional adapter is VTNet 2. So if we want to proceed, we want to select yes. Okay, so what we want to do now is go ahead and assign the IP addresses on the LAN and the optional one, but we're going to keep the WAN IP address the same. So we're going to select option number 2. And the interface that we want to change is number 2 for LAN. Okay, so when we're prompted, if we want to enter DHCP on LAN, we want to select no. And we enter the new LAN IPv4 address as 10.0.3.1. And then for subnet mask, we want to enter 24. And we do not want to enter the gateway address, so go ahead and select enter. Select no for configure IPv6 address. And enter the new LAN IPv6. Again, we can select enter for none. Then when prompted, do we want to enable the DHCP server on the LAN? We want to click yes. And then we want to give it that range. So we enter the start address as 10.0.3.11. And then we give it an end address of 10.0.3.243. Okay, then we want to select enter. Now we need to do the same thing for the other interface by selecting 2, And selecting 3, then we want to select no. Then we want to give it the IP address of 10.0.1.1. Go ahead and make that /4. We will just hit enter and we'll select no. Select enter. We want to select yes. On this one, we want to give it the IP range of 10.0.1.11 to 10.0.1.243. We want to select no. And then we want to hit enter. Now what we want to do is safely shut it down by selecting 6. Yes. Okay, so now what we want to do is go back to settings, go to storage, highlight the installer, select the drop down, remove the disk from the virtual drive, and then click OK. So that will complete the initial configuration of pfSense. We will now go ahead and install Kali Linux. Then we'll come back and actually configure the firewall through a web interface from the Kali Linux box.